Welcome aboard to Admiral Preparedness, Ship into the Future. What we're going to do today is talk about these items here before you. They're considered standard staple items in probably many homes around the world. So where do we start? Well, we know that the canned foods that are in your local grocery stores all have what's called a use by date or best by date. And that's just there as a general rule of thumb. Every time I talk about canned goods on the internet, uh, I don't get nobody has any problems because we're all starting to understand that certain foods that are in cans can last a very long time, well past their expiration date or their sell by or best by date. It's all about storage temperature. It's all about, if you got high humidity and a lot of moisture in a room, these labels will fall off. And then you got mystery cans. There are folks out there who are recommending to coat these in marine lacquer. Okay, I'm not really one of those believers because there's other ways to keep the labels on, and one is to put them in a container that's airtight so moisture can't get in. Otherwise is a Sharpie to mark on the top or bottom telling you what's in the can. Where I live, I don't have to worry about that. Now, if there's ever a major flood down there, well, that's another thing. If it gets that deep, then it's a total write-off anyway. But these cans have been found under the ocean, underwater, freshwater lakes and whatnot, and are perfectly edible when the scientists or researchers open them up. Now, glass items, I always like to buy the dark glass product because light is a killer. The sunlight of an area or just ambient room light will destroy items in these glass containers like these guys. Uh, these were meant to be on a store shelf for a very short period of time. Remember that. The consumer foods are not meant to be living in that grocery store for more than a week, 2 weeks at the most. That's why they cycle the food out. Now, what you do with it is you'll bring it home, put it in your pantry, close the door, and the light can't get to it. And if you store food like these, put them where the light can't get to them. I like to keep them in the original plastic just to make them easier to have. Now, when you come to these plastic bottles, you got to be very careful with these plastic bottles. I don't really like long-term consumer items in plastic because other than glass and cans, this plastic may tendency to what's called breathe or allow it to not last as long because the seal or the actual if you go down and look at this in a subatomic, microscopic world, it's still porous. It's just that it's like glass. If you looked at glass windows from 100 to 300 years ago, it's thicker at the bottom than it is at the top because glass is still liquid. Plastic's new. It's an advent of the petrochemical industry. But cans, I don't know if you've heard about Napoleon, but somebody said, your troops are fed. If they're not going to be happy, they won't want to fight. So that's the old story of the advent of the can. They invented the can before the can opener, and those poor troops were out there in the middle of nowhere trying to open up a can with their battle knives, and it was a mess. But we can get back to the fact that these foods can last a very, very long time. One is when you're a prepper, you're a hoarder, you're somebody out there who has to drive 60 miles one way to get to a grocery store. That's where those folks, they stock up. They don't want to have to keep going back and forth because it's expensive. And I feel for those folks because as I used to travel across the country by air, nothing else to do but look out the window of the airplane and look down, and you see this house in the middle of the vast open area, and you think either they grow that food or they got to go to the store and get it. Uh, the old days where every month you went to the grocery store and stocked up and you brought back your month's worth of your stores. That's still going on, folks. You just don't see it. There's no TV show out there showing Mr. and Mrs. Jones who live in Kansas, where the nearest town is 80 miles away, and that's not by as the crows fly. That's by the roads that they have to go around because people have property. They don't want the cities coming in and counties and states, putting roads in the middle of their farms. Uh, with the advent of drone technology, I can see that the food delivery will revolutionize living in rural America. Trust me, I can guarantee that there'll be drones now tasked to deliver your groceries via air. I'm not talking about some little toy drone either. I'm talking about something the size of a bus that'll be able to fly around and land or hover, and your groceries will come down in a box and you're good to go. And it won't be very expensive at all, folks. Trust me, it will not be very expensive. It's just that's the future. For you guys out there who are like me, you're sci-fi freaks, then you look at Star Trek or you look at Star Wars or you start thinking of all the advent technologies that are around us right now. Those are those dreamers and thinkers of years ago. They made it to reality. But that goes with food too. These guys here are all healthy alternatives to eating organic, or you got to eat, but I always say eat what you store what you eat, because that way you won't suffer food fatigue during a grid down SHTF event that's extended. Now, we all know, and you have to look at reality here. There are different folks out there who are playing the mind games of what ifs. Well, everybody's different. Everybody's story is going to be different. Mine may be this, yours may be that. You just have to take each one for a grain of salt, so you don't get yourself all wrapped around it, thinking that you're going to die if you don't have spam saved up, or you're going to die if you don't have, come on now, baby back. That's a luxury item. But you need your caloric intake, you need your vitamins, you need your minerals. But everybody's different. You look around and you see everybody has something that's their pet peeve, or that's their goal. Just have some kind of a plan. If you go out to Salt Lake City, Utah, or anywhere in Utah, and talk to anybody there who's Mormon, I can guarantee that they got about a year's worth of food in their families, their compounds, their wherever they're living. And I totally respect those folks for that, because they're being directed the right path for self-sufficiency. And look where they're living. My God, it's the desert up there. If it doesn't rain, they don't have water. So you got to take that for what it's worth also. For you folks who are living in suburbia, you've got the same situation. There's a young lady out there in Northern California who's doing her fictitious blog right now, and I respect what she's doing, but she's kind of way off track when it comes to certain things, because she's out there moving around by herself in her little, scenario, and I can guarantee within the first couple of weeks of an SHTF grid down, she's going to be hunkered indoors, and the marauder's going to be out, or the thug's going to be out, because or she's going to get scarfed up by the military and the social services that'll be followed suit as soon as the SHT event occurs, or a grid down. Once the rioting stops, you can bet your bottom dollar that I'm not going to be anywhere near a grocery store during a grid down. I don't need to. I've got plenty of what's here in multiple quantities and other items. This is just an example of what I picked up recently. Uh, if you see one of these, get two. If you see one of these, get two of them and put one away. If you can't afford it, then you need to go down to the food banks. The ones here are a little particular. They want to take some information from you, and they're not just going to let you grab a bunch of groceries and leave. But if you are in dire straits and you are situated where you need to get food, because that's all you're going to need to survive, then head on down to the food bank and suck back the pride, and go do it because they're there to help you. That's what they're there for. That food's all excellent food. It's just the grocery stores are looking for a tax write-off and personal donations are those. But now I went to give some of this to the food bank, and the lady turned me down because of the expiration date. I stood there and looked at her and went, "Ma'am, you need to educate yourself a little bit more on these vittles because that's as good as gold in there. That's never going to deteriorate." But then she gave me, "Well, this is our policy." I said, "Well, I need to talk to somebody in charge because that's." And then, of course, I run into a piece of red tape, and I finally just threw up my arms and gave up. I said, "Okay, fine, I'll just take it back home and eat it myself. I'm sorry, I'm trying to help out the community. If that's the way you feel, you guys can starve because when times are terrible, you're going to grab that can and wish the hell you had it." But that's neither here nor there. That's just how it went. Uh, One thing about glass, for all you folks out there who like to can your own food and stuff, and I cringe when I'm looking at these food stores. At least put them where they can't, if there's an explosion or if there's a terrorist attack and you're sitting there with all this glass in your basement or your storage area, and next thing you know, because something caused the earth to move a little bit, now this stuff has been broken and now it's all over the place making a big mess. At least, put something across the front so it can't go flying when something happens seriously. It's just common sense. It's just a safety precaution. If you have glass items, put them on the bottom shelves. Put all your heavy items on the bottom so that your storage units don't fall over. That's a scenario. If heaven forbid, the caldera out in the west goes, what is it? Who is it? Yosemite. Uh, the I'll have to stop right now because I'm kind of having a brain fart, but you people know what I'm talking about. If one of those calderas or volcanoes go and it causes major earthquakes where there normally aren't earthquakes, you're going to have a lot of stuff going over the ground. Just make sure you protect it. What you have to understand also when it comes to people like me, we'll sit there and babble for the next 35 minutes just to help ourselves be heard, help our hubbies here. We don't go with that. But I completely screwed this whole thing up, so I apologize for that. How long am I into this? 12 minutes. So that's about right. I don't have an editing software where I could cut it out either, so we're just going to let it keep going. But I appreciate your coming to my channel, and I'm hoping you're looking at my playlist because some of them are pretty good. At least I think so. But then again, I'm outstanding in my own field. I just don't know what that field is. So get out there and have fun. It's not something to keep your head buried in the sand about. Just consider that you need to be prepared. It doesn't take much. It's just, if you got small places you can put your goodies, that's even better. At least try something. Something's better than nothing. Uh, you get out there and you start looking around the YouTube world and the internet, and you can sit here and want to blow your brains out because you keep talking about how it's all look doom and gloom, but I don't never think that. I just think I need to be prepared. And if I've got an extra couple dollars, I'll buy me another couple cans of these guys. If I know that I'm running low on my pineapple, I'll go ahead and give me some more. And I ain't a rich man at all. I'm living day to day with what I make off the internet. But what we have to understand is we're here for each other. So don't think you're going to be a lone wolf. Uh, get your group of people together. Get the trusted circle, that circle of trust they keep talking about. Uh, you hear about these fellas out there who are Rambos, and I get a kick out of it because they got more guns than brains. You can only shoot one at a time. And for the folks out there who live well away from other people, you're going to be the ones that survive this. You have a better chance because your isolation is going to keep you from getting all the nasties that the city life, the urban and the metropolitan folks. I could pretty much put spot on that if you live in a high rise above 10 stories, jump. Just end it. Grab the kids and try to get out because good luck. I mean, you watch these movies that are 40 years old, and they're still true to this day about what can happen in metropolitan America or Europe or Asia. If you can get out, get out. If you know some place to go, go. If you're gonna want to bug in, I can guarantee that you need to buy about 20 fire extinguishers and keep those things handy, because a lot of thugs out there have been coming on the internet saying, hey, look, if I can't get it from you, I'll just burn you out. And they're dead serious. They ain't kidding around, because they know that the authorities won't be around to stop the incident from occurring. They'll start coming down these streets in the droves, and on foot. They're not going to have horses. This fantasy about having gasoline will be gone. Your best bet is to be as quiet as you can, and don't allow them folks to even know you're even there. I've got something I want to show you that I got a while back that I thought of. Yeah, it didn't cost very much at all there, YouTube fans, but it is a do not enter biological contamination area. So if you're going to be one of these folks that wants to take your chances at, walking around a biological contamination biohazard area and think that you're going to be able to go into that domicile or wherever and pilfer it, well, I got news for you. You ain't going to get not much help of anybody else wanting to come in and help you, because if you saw a do not enter biohazard, let me open this up. Do not enter biohazard on a window, on a door, would you go into that room if that was what was going across every window and door on a domicile? I seriously don't think you would. Now, you can go out there and do your research, find those documents that your local municipality uses to show biohazard on buildings and domiciles. So you print those out on your computer. You don't ever date them. You don't have the www whatever at the bottom of the page. You make it look as official and real as possible, and you staple it to the door, your front door and your side doors, during a grid down SHTF event. And I can guarantee that nobody is going to come around that property. They're just not. You can do it around cars. You can do it around the back sheds and stuff, because they're already thinking that the authorities have already been there. When you see this, you're just going to go next place. You're going to walk right past it. It's like the old saying with those security system placards they put out in front of your property, telling letting those people know you've got a security system. They're just going to go to another house. That's in good time. That's just regular days. That's not SHTF or grid down events. That's just, they're just not going to go to your house because they know there's a security system. Beware of dog. This is beware of not being dead. And I'll let you chew on that for a little while. And sorry about the flub there. Bye now.